being white, I mean, I'm not trying to like sound racist, but being white, in a way made us a target, but also because we were foreigners, the general public would look out for us because they'd either assume we didn't know what we were doing, or just that, you know, we're not aware of customs. And so not that we'd break customs, but just there's general respect for foreigners. So we didn't get targeted. I guess I personally didn't get targeted a lot by like getting jumped or attacked, or none knives were pulled on me. But there was always those random people who just really did not like white people. They always associated white people with Americans, even though there was some, you know, white people. There was a South African and some other people that weren't American, but it was always associated white people with Americans. So sometimes we'd just be walking around, people would yell, "Go back to America! We don't want you here!" And then they'd threaten us, but we knew they didn't really. I mean, maybe they meant it, but they weren't going to do anything because there's too many people around who were respectful of us that they couldn't have got away with it. I feel like petty crimes are pretty common, maybe like theft and stuff like that. But there's a great justice system there. It's called the mob justice, and so that keeps major crime down, at least from what I've seen, just because if the public doesn't like what you do, then they'll take matters into their own hands instead of waiting for policemen or government officials to punish people. So if you get caught stealing, they usually will not treat you kindly. For instance, on Mother's Day, I had been calling and talking to my parents, and then I went out with one of the bishops in the ward I was serving with, and I was just telling them how nothing too crazy has happened recently, and we've been safe. And then we just saw a guy who walked across the street naked and kind of beaten up, and the bishop said, "Oh, he looks like he just got caught stealing." So they would, you know, strip him and beat him and then send him on their way. So because of punishments like that, I feel like petty crimes, you know, people didn't do them often if they thought they were going to get caught. I know it happened because it happened to me. I had a couple things stolen, and I know other missionaries got stuff stolen, but it was pretty safe as far as getting attacked. There was several riots while I was there. There was a presidential election for President Museveni, and some people were not excited about him potentially being the president for another term, and so there was a lot of rioting. On riot days, we'd get sent back to our apartments, and we'd be locked in, and we weren't allowed to leave. We had to call in and report to make sure that we were safe, and the police usually took care of that pretty quickly. They just tear gas everybody. So I don't think no deaths because of that, at least none around me, but a couple missionaries got tear gassed and because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and every once in a while you hear missionaries share stories of someone getting attacked, but it wasn't too common. In Lira, one of the northern villages of Uganda, there was a strong anti-American sentiment due to some previous pastors from America that had come and kind of tarnished the American name according to those people. So it got a little sketch there. I had a Kenyan companion who got hit in the face because he was walking with me because I was American. And people would yell stuff at us and threaten us and, you know, shove us around, but it wasn't like, we never got fully assaulted except for that one time where my companion got hit, and the guy was completely drunk out of his mind, so he probably wouldn't have done it in a normal state of mind. In Ethiopia, the village I served in, for the most part, it was really calm. It's known some tribal warfare for the past 3 or 4 years, and so sometimes those different groups would get angry with each other, to put it nicely, and attack each other or retaliate. But they wouldn't ever, focus on us. It was always just different tribes that were fighting against each other. One experience that I had, and this is not a common experience. That probably would happen 1 in a million times. We were the wrong place at the wrong time, but there was a festival for one of the tribes, and they were celebrating their strength and their greatness as a tribe, and we were on a donkey chariot riding from one area to the other, and our driver was from the wrong tribe, and he was disrespecting their procession. They had a couple hundred people, maybe 400 or 500 people walking through the road in their tribal gear. It was more traditional. It wasn't like actual war gear, but they had their spears and they had their hats and stuff like that. And he just kept on driving the donkeys into the back of the procession, and they kept on telling him to stop. And so finally they kind of got fed up, and they pulled him off the chariot and started beating him, and then they started trying to tip our chariot. And so they pushed us down a hill, and we jumped out of the chariot before we crashed, and then they surrounded us and just kind of, I don't think they meant harm, Maybe they were kind of in a frenzy, but they were smiling at us as they were surrounding us and jumping up and down with their spears. So I didn't like it felt kind of scary, but the fact that they were smiling, either they were smiling because they're happy they were surrounding us, or they were trying to scare us and show us. I don't know. But luckily, someone happened to be driving by, which was surprising because that was a really unfrequent road, and a lot of people have cars there. Not a lot of people do. So this guy drove by and saw us surrounded, and he kind of drove into the procession a little bit to get people away from us, and then he opened the doors and let us get inside, and then he shut us in the doors and locked the doors. Yeah, it was a great experience. It probably will never happen again. It's not common. I never heard of anyone else having that happen. We just had a bad chariot driver who was not respectful of people and what they want, I guess. So for the most part, it was really calm there. A couple times we had to leave just because there was, tribes attacking the other. So we'd see people going by in trucks with 15 or 20 people in the truck bed with guns, and we'd say, okay, time to go. Because we lived in one area, and then we took a 30-minute bus ride to our area. So if we heard anything like that, we'd just jump on the next bus out of there. And the locals would know that there was trouble, and they'd want us to get out of there because they didn't want us to be in the wrong place. And usually, so even if their bus was full, they'd stop and let us on. Or people would say, hey, you need to get out of here. Things aren't good. Come back tomorrow. It'll be fine. It's just some stubborn people. But people were good at watching out for us.